The road to WrestleMania begins right now, as we've been talking about for weeks. It's Lita and the Hardy Boys. But before we show you this show, I wanted to mention to you that since we taped the show, the World Wrestling Federation has purchased WCW. We talked about the changing climate, but we did not know for sure, and I think it makes the talk even more relevant. Let's do it. Lita and the Hardy Boys on OTR.
The off-the-record WrestleMania special is brought to you by The Keg Steakhouse and Bar. For great steaks, good friends, see you tonight.
Over the years, OTR has distinguished itself as the place you go for certain things. Things that you can't get anywhere else. The straight goods on sports, a host in skin-tight powder blue sweaters, and of course, behind the scenes talk about wrestling. OTR takes you on the road to WrestleMania with an all-Canadian panel on Friday. Chris, Val, Edge, and Christian. And a big 90-minute special on Sunday, including a one-on-one with Kurt Angle. I don't think I've ever heard him spoke as candidly as he will in that. But we started all here with the Hardy Boys and Lita. It is great to welcome Lita back to the show. Totally psyched that you're here. Lovely woman who talked sports last time. Today we'll talk about wrestling as well. The guys known as the Hardy Boys, maybe the most athletic wrestlers in the world today. Say hi to Matt and Jeff Hardy. Good to see you guys.
Good to see you, Michael.
All right, let's start with you two guys first of all. And the reality of your business and being small guys in a big business. If you're 400 pounds, you got a shtick, right? It's all worked out for you. But you guys are smaller. You don't stand out as much. How did you first get Vince McMahon to notice you?
Well, it was always weird, you know, and it's always like something you kind of didn't believe when we were trying to make it in wrestling. We were like, oh man, we're not going to be big enough, man. We're not big enough to wrestle. Because there were so many, you know, big wrestlers, and it was a world of giants. So we just, but when we first started WWF, we would do whatever we could to make people remember us, you know, whether it be, you know, take a crazy bump or whatever.
Yeah, I think we were real lucky that right around the time when we were offered an opportunity in the WWF, wrestling went from being 300-pound giants to guys that have more athleticism. And whenever Jeff and I were coming up doing matches, you know, once every 4 or 5 months with WWF, we would do anything we could do in a match, you know, whether it was doing some, you know, neat flip or taking a, you know, daring bump, so that people would sit back and say, hey, you know, that guy named Hardy, he's he tries hard. I like him. I hope he makes it one day. You know, just anything to generate a little interest in us.
Let's talk about the big bumps, which obviously helped all of you guys. And Lita, even though you haven't voiced it yet, one of the things that you see when you see Lita in the ring is that you do stuff that other women don't do, have never done, and maybe never will do. Where does it stop, though? When you set a standard that is so high, after a while, when you keep doing it over and over again, starts to just look normal.
Right. Well, personally, I think, now, you can definitely tell it in my approach to the wrestling business, and Jeff is slowly getting there as well. I mean, the next thing for us, people care about us as people just because they know we put our bodies on the line for so long. The next thing we need to do is have them care about our personalities, and that's where we've got to go from now on.
Mm-hmm. And there's so much room for that, you know. It's great to be known just for wrestling. I mean, like, we don't have to talk. People love watching us wrestle. So, right now.
Right. I think, too, it's always up to us to draw our own lines, because we feed off of each, you know, we'll almost excite ourselves by pulling off something and be like, oh, I don't think I was going to do that. Oh, I bet I could do it with just like this and from even higher or even further out. And I mean, you know, we do have to try to control ourselves a little bit, but at the same time we kind of get carried away and continue it a little bit.
Yeah, because, I mean, let's face it, you are in the business of giving people what they want. When you give people what they want, I mean, Vince talks about this all the time. Give them what they want, you'll be okay. And so far, you've been okay. But there's always a higher ladder out there you can find. There's always another flip that you can do. And I'm wondering, how do you limit yourself? Because I know your drive is to give the folks what they want. But what you don't want to do is give them a broken and battered Hardy Boys and Lita.
Right. Well, you know, I mean, I think, you know, both myself and Jeff, our mentality has always been, you know, you only get one go around in life, and we got a chance to come to the WWF, and we were going to give it everything. And if we went back, I wouldn't change a thing. But, you know, there is a point where your body can only go so far, and you kind of have to, you have to take, you know, what you've got right now and everything you've built off taking big bumps and ladder matches and whatnot, and you have to take it a step further. And like I said, the next thing for us is about personalities where, you know, people want to see us for the people we are.
Because as men, you're wrestling, and there's guys out there who maybe don't do it as well as you, but who do the same sort of thing. But Lita, I'm wondering what your approach is, because you're with these guys that do these unbelievably athletic things, that take huge chances all the time. Even you admit it, right? I mean, you take some chances.
Absolutely.
How much does that force you maybe into doing stuff that you're not 100% comfortable with, but because you're with guys who are laying it all on the line?
Oh, totally. That's never it at all. They help me so much. I'm always wanting to do more. I was never a gymnast. I was never really, I was kind of learning on the spot from them and, from watching tapes and stuff. So, I'll kind of come up with an idea of like, how do I do this, guys? And they'll help me out. They help me out being so much with them, trying to learn more. I'm always trying to push the envelope, and I'm not a gymnast, and I don't know that stuff really doesn't come natural to me. So it's kind of a little awkward for me to try to pull off stuff. I just enjoy doing it.
And go ahead.
I was just going to say, and as dangerous as a lot of the things look that we've done, I mean, we've never done anything that we don't feel comfortable doing. I think all the risks that we've taken have been calculated risk and things that we know we can pull off without seriously injuring ourselves.
Well, your company's got a fine balancing act, right? The WWF. On one hand, when you go out there and you really lay it on the line and you do stuff that's new and fresh, that's great for their business. But on the other hand, your performers are your most valuable commodities. Do they pull you back? Is there anyone at the WWF saying to you, hey, be careful, guys?
Absolutely. I'll tell you a story. There was one time when, I don't know if people would remember this, if people follow wrestling real close, they will, where when the McMahon-Helmsley era first started, and Edge and Christian and the Hardy Boys had the big respect thing going on after the first ladder match, and we were going into a match that was going to be a cage match that we were kind of forced into as we were friends at the time. And Vince actually pulled us to the side and a couple other people and said, hey, I want you guys to cut back a little bit. Don't go out there and kill yourselves. There's only so many bumps on your bump card. Is a little expression we like to use. And he definitely said that, hey, slow down a little bit, pick your points. And whenever you go out and take a big bump, make it mean something.
And Jeff, did you guys pull it back?
Yeah, oh yeah, totally. Because we realized that, at first we didn't really think about it. It was like doing whatever we, could to get recognized. But now that we're kind of needed and we feel comfortable.
I'll interject here though. Yeah. He says he slowed it down though, and then he'll get like just something, I don't know what it is, and then all of a sudden in the middle of a house show for no reason he'll just go flying out over the top and smack right on the concrete, and me and Mash are going, Jeff. What are you doing?
Right.
What are you doing?
Right. He's like such an adrenaline junkie. I mean, he's definitely, he understands, the point, but Jeff gets his mind set on one thing, and he's quite a unique individual. I mean, you have to spend a lot of time around him to understand him. But if he gets something in his mind that he wants to do, I mean, he'll do it, and there's no turning back though.
Now, when you look at him, do you see any Mick Foley? Because that was the thing about Mick Foley was
absolutely.
that there's stuff that he would talk about ahead of time that there's no way he would even think of himself doing. But when he got in the ring, he became possessed with the idea, I got to do something no one's ever done before.
Absolutely. Jeff Hardy has that quality.
I think that's, too, I can't speak for everybody, but, I mean, I'll feel it, too. I'll just kind of, like we're talking about calculated risk, you'll go through the move, but not all the way, because you'll say, well, I can, you'll just climb up to the top and kind of envision it and say, and fill this with 20,000 people, and I'll be able to complete this. But right here, I've heard, Matt, you say it before on the TLC video, you show me through a table right now, and I'm not going to want to do it. Once I get out there, though, I won't feel it, but, it'll be hard for me to get after it when there's nobody in the arena.
How much of a different approach is there between a house show and you'll do what, a couple of hundred of those a year?
A house show, we'll probably do 120, 125
house shows a year, a TV show, and then the top of that, which is WrestleMania.
Right.
Are you more likely to do something that's going to get you in real trouble physically at WrestleMania than you would at a given house show on a Tuesday night?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I mean, if we would say no, that wouldn't be an honest answer. I mean, WrestleMania is the plateau. It's like being in the in the 7th game of the World Series. I mean, you want to make it dramatic. You want to give it your all. And WrestleMania will be the big platform for the Hardy Boys this year. All
right, let's take a break. Got lots to talk about. Stone Cold and Deborah, China and Triple H, Matt and Lita, angles, weddings, and sex. When we return, make sure you go to tsn.ca/OTR for all our extra wrestling features, green room exclusive, web polls, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria on our website. Stay with us. Sex in the locker room, in the storyline. You guys, Matt and Lita, are a couple. Wrestling borrows from reality. Are you a couple in real life?
I wouldn't really classify us as a couple. I mean, we're good friends. There was a point, actually. No, I'm serious. I'll go back and I'm going to explain this. We're off the record, but I'm going to put it on the record right now. Before Lita ever came to the WWF, there was a time when we met, and, we went out and dated a little while. And then eventually we kind of lost contact because she was off doing other things. And then whenever she came to the WWF, we've always hung out, and we're comfortable with, having a relationship on TV, and, we can go kiss, and it's no big deal just because, it's something we...
So you're saying it's no big deal to kiss her, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm saying it's no big deal to kiss her. Absolutely.
A lot of people would disagree with that.
Are you sure?
Oh, I think so. All right, that should piss you off a little bit. No big deal. If I got to kiss her, I got to kiss her, whatever.
No, I mean, it's great kissing her. Don't get me wrong, but I'm saying it's no big deal as far as a comfort level. Where if I had to work with someone like Trish Stratus, who's somebody, is in the same boat as Lita, as far as there's a ton of guys...
You can get yourself in a lot of trouble with her.
Yeah. No, but what I'm saying
right
is there's a ton of guys who would love to kiss Trish Stratus as well, but, I didn't have that, ongoing relationship, and I didn't know Trish for a long time before. If I had to do it just, that we work together, well, hey, I'm Matt, I'm Trish, we got to kiss tonight. It wouldn't be quite as comfortable. But with Amy, we've got such a background.
Maybe you'd like to answer this question.
Also, I'll explain that night when we had the kiss, and it's funny because everyone was talking about their match and what they have to do that night, and we were in this hallway where it was the guys' locker room and the girls' locker room. He said, okay, now do you want me to, pull you in? And so we were just talking. I mean, it might as well have been saying, okay, do you want to duck my clothesline, whatever, it's just a spot. And, so one of the guys would come out of the locker room, and I'd be like, shh, stop. Don't talk about this. It was really embarrassing for me. My mom called and left a cute message about us on. She said, "You look really embarrassed afterwards." It was still embarrassing, even though we had before. But like I said, once I pretty much started with ECW, our schedules were so opposite. We never really saw each other. I would come and train down there, and so I met both of them before.
See, one of the things about the three of you is that you've never really assumed an unusual persona. There's no character. I believe for the most part, you are in the ring what you are in everyday life. And that's not the case for a lot of guys who assume roles that are totally different. You say you want to become more public. You say that you want to tell stories. Is there any part of you that you won't tell to the audience, that you won't share with the audience?
For me, no, I don't care. I mean, everything about us is real as of right now, down from our names to Jeff and I being brothers to being from Cameron, North Carolina, a little town out in the middle of nowhere in North Carolina.
But there's a lot of guys who wrestle and women who wrestle who get into trouble by getting too deeply into their real characters and bringing it into the ring.
I think it's more of them taking their characters from the ring and bringing it into the real life.
Jerry Lawler and Kat.
Mm-hmm.
That was personal, it became professional, and it screwed up the professional, right? She got fired and he had to go with her.
Right. I mean, it definitely can. I mean, so many people, they just become engulfed in their character and their whole line of professional work and what all they've done, and they can't tone back and be a real person again, which I think is completely absurd. It's entertainment. I mean, we don't go out there to win or to lose. We go out there to perform, and we go out there to be a character. Our real name's Hardy, but when we go out there as Hardy Boys, we're two guys right now that just aren't afraid of anything and are willing to do anything to win. And a lot of people buy into that because they know we really bust it every time we hit the ring.
Scathing review of the Hardys. You guys aren't partiers.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, it depends.
No, that's what I hear. You guys are not partiers. Yet, video games after the matches, that's cool for you guys, right?
I don't even, room, we got to keep this party.
Yeah, but
actually, I don't even play video games. I'll tell you.
Now that's sick. Speaking for my 15-year-old son.
Hey, go get home with me. But no, the one thing I was going to say about not partying is whenever we first came to the WWF, neither one of us really drank. And some of the guys gave us a hard time.
That's what I was going to ask you, because you're in a locker room, and this is not particular to wrestling. You got, in real sports, real life, you get, people between the ages of 20 and 50, and for the most part, they drink and carouse and do all kinds of stuff like that. So you guys come in as the good boys.
Right.
How are you looked at, and how much did you have to win people over to be accepted?
It maybe took a while. I mean, because when we came in, we were generally ourselves. I mean, I don't think we ever try and, be someone else in front of people. I mean, I didn't want to come in and give this perception, I go and stay up every night till 7 a.m. and drink and, do bad things, whatever. I mean, we were just ourselves. And eventually, I think we're, good, cool people, and we won ourselves over.
Mm-hmm. It was hard. I mean, like Bradshaw, Bradshaw? Yeah. Man, we'd go in the building every day and say, hey, Bradshaw, that's the proper thing to do is to greet everybody. Go to hell. That was his response. We're like,
why?
Because at the time, we didn't drink, and
just because one of the things whenever we first came in, like you said, we didn't drink, and that was just kind of like a thing. Actually, our dad just raised us up real hard. Our mom died when we were young, and our dad brought us up real hard in the country, and we never saw a lot of that outside life and partying. I mean, we grew up on a farm, and we farmed, and I mean, we were kind of we were shielded to a degree from the outside world. But whenever we first came in, Bradshaw said one night, well, I want you guys to, drink a, 6-pack of beer tonight, and throw the bottles at signs. And we said, okay, sure. We were joking. We came back in the next day, said, you guys do it? And we said, no. And he said, what? Mm-hmm. And then from then on, he kind of gave us a hard time. But then eventually, you know, everything's cool with us. He's
All we
one
would
of
have
our
had to do
favorite
there-
people now.
All we would have had to do there is lie, though. If we would have just said it, hey, we'd have been fine. There was no proof. He didn't ask for any proof, so, you know. Hey, but, you know, it all worked out fine.
So when you come into the WWF to get your job there, you got to just lie, I guess.
Lie, man.
Well, you can apply that to many aspects of life and many aspects of employment. When we return, the whole wrestling world has been turned upside down. Where does everybody stand in that Poseidon adventure right now? When we return. It looks as though the rival WCW is, unless they find a new buyer, maybe finished. As we tape the show, it's all up in the air. Before we get into it further, on the surface, what's your reaction? And why do you think that that company failed while the company that you guys are a big part of right now continues to succeed?
I feel like I'm hogging all the talk time. You guys want to answer?
Well, like, we've actually been talking about it today, and we always try to keep up with what's going on because it's a concern of ours. But, like, that sucks. I mean, we need the competition. It always makes us stronger. Even, I mean, internally it's good. As our locker room being really full right now, it's that competition internally is good for us. At the same time, we have no competition out there, and I mean, it's a really bad situation. As far as them failing, I don't know exactly because I wasn't there behind the scenes, but I mean, I hope something works out for them just because it'll be, I mean, better to keep the progression forward and keep business moving forward.
Their show just grew terrible to me. I mean, it was horrible. Some of the times I would watch it and compare it to ours. Man, I mean, what do? They have all the talent in the world,
Right.
all the money, but just not the right direction.
Also, it seemed like they kept trying to redirect, but they wouldn't do it long enough to see if it would catch on. They'd say, let's try this, and then they'd do that for 2 weeks, and they go, oh, ratings didn't go up. Let's try this, and obviously it's going to take a while to catch on. You know.
I think one of the major points, Vince McMahon and the McMahons are a wrestling family. The people who were running WCW, you know, they've had different people who were the head, but, you know, basically Tom Warner, you know, their specialty isn't wrestling, you know, where the McMahons are. And here, Vince McMahon is the final word, and when he says something, that's what goes. And down there were so many people giving out orders or command, there was, like, no set, you know, there was no set order down there. Which you have people doing, you know, there's mutiny down there, and there always has been, just because there's not one person that directly answers.
It seemed like people weren't in sync. There'd be camera angles. They were missing, like, the main entire transitional point of the match, and you're like, well, what just happened? And you could assume what would happen. The camera would miss that, and you could tell the same finish would happen back-to-back matches. The agents weren't communicating. It just seemed like, you know, like what Matt was saying, a lot of people were having the final say in it.
Now, a group like 3 Count, a group you ran Omega Pro with, right? They may be looking for work. Is there a concern that you guys have? These are friends of yours, right?
Sugar Shane and Shannon Moore.
But duplication, to me, would be a concern. And those guys, you know, look and act and, I think, wrestle, to their credit, pretty similarly.
Right. Well, yeah, you know, I love those guys to death, and we would do anything to help them. I don't know if, you know, duplication. I don't know if there's going to be room for a 3 count in the WWF if there's already, you know, the original Hardy Boys, or so many people say. And I don't think it's necessarily they were going out trying to copy us. I think that's kind of the role they put them in. Because WCW, once again, WWF would come up with something successful. They'd say, well, what can we do to make something similar to that? Well, these two guys, they worked with them and they wrestle similar. Let's kind of push them along that same path. You know, so I hope something works out for all those guys, just for the sake of.
Because it's got to be a concern in your locker room, right? The fact that, I mean,
absolutely.
While WWF does really well, as soon as you take WCW out of the mix, now all of a sudden, you guys don't have a union. But that, in one sense, was your union because there was always some place that you could go. There was always competition.
Right,
right, absolutely.
It's going to be really interesting. I mean, if the wrestling becomes just Vince McMahon and the WWF and a monopoly, I just don't know. It's going to be really interesting to see if that, you know, works, how that works for us. I mean, there's some ways where I can see there'd be advantages, and there's some ways where, you know, there could be a lot of disadvantages.
I was just going to say, I mean, you're always, this job is so volatile, you never know when things are going to go, but there's a level of, I feel like a lot of people in the locker room just have a level of comfort. You always know you're not going to go anywhere, but you can kind of be yourself and say, well, what about this, or what about this, and it might make people be less creative because they don't want to speak up because they say, well, I don't want to get fired, I have nowhere to go, so let me just almost keep my head down, as opposed to, you know, be very thankful where you are, but kind of comfortable enough to say, well, I was thinking about this, what do you think? You know, and then say, you're fired.
You guys are great. Thanks very much for your candor, by the way. We'll take a break. We got a few more minutes left to talk. We'll talk about WrestleMania, which we should tell the folks at home, if you're interested, call your local cable company and get hooked up for this evening, or go to a local Famous Players Theater and you can check out WrestleMania X7. Here's some email that we received. Michael, way to go bringing Lita back on the show. Maybe if you're lucky, she'll hold you down while the Hardy Boys are busting your pretty face.
Now, see, that's not right. There's no justice in the world.
Actually, you know what? That's at least part of that is working for me.
All right.
There's our website. There's our email. There's our fax number. Back with more OTR in a moment. You know, one of the joys of this job is meeting people that you see performing on television. They assume a role or not a role. They act in a certain way. And then you just sit them down and you go, what? You know what? Good guys, good folks. It was a pleasure. Lita, Matt and Jeff Hardy, thanks for joining us on the show. And one of the things that we're doing here today is talking about WrestleMania. We tell the folks at home, if you'd like to watch this evening to WrestleMania X7, always the premier event of the year. On Sunday, you can call your local cable company to get connected, or, of course, go to Famous Players Theater and watch it live on the big screen. You guys, exciting. Yeah, absolutely. You guys are wrestling. It's a three-way tag team match, right?
Dudley's, Christian and Edge. We're going to have a big blow-off. We've done it 2 times before.
TLC 2.
And we're going to go out there. We're going to give the people a WrestleMania type match.
This is your second WrestleMania, right?
This is my second. I was just in Access last year, so I was kind of a part of it.
This is your first time on the big card?
My first time, yeah.
So tell me the hype, the vibe at something like WrestleMania, as it differs from even a Raw or a Thursday night show.
Oh, it's just unbelievable. I mean, as a kid, WrestleMania is the ultimate platform, you know, for professional wrestling, and being able to participate in WrestleMania, this is our second, and it's going to be the biggest one, you know, as far as like revenue and publicity of all time. So we're hyped, we're jacked, we're amped.
Right, you guys were wrestling fans growing up, North Carolina, right? Mm-hmm. So is that Ric Flair?
Yeah, we saw a lot of NWA. We saw some WWF as well. Ric Flair was definitely a big influence on us.
Mm-hmm. Lita, who was?
I got in really
Isn't there a story on you that you actually were watching some wrestling?
Yeah, it was
called down in Mexico, got on a plane.
Ago. Yeah, so the Mexicans were the first. Rey Mysterio was the first. Right as they were bringing the Mexicans into the WCW, is really what kind of sparked me. And then so from there, I've tried to do my homework.
They didn't make
you
put on a mask, did they?
No, I asked. I wanted to be under
that's
mask.
A waste. Should this woman be wearing a mask?
No, I don't.
No, you don't get a vote. You didn't even like kissing her.
See, that's not right.
You know what? I'm so disappointed in that. I'm going to talk to you later.
You misinterpreted that.
Well, that's my job in the media.
Well,
take what they say, put it in a new direction, put a spin on it, make it look bad. That's my job.
Definitely. Good
guys.
You put there.
You know what? A total pleasure. Matt and Jeff Hardy, Lita, I hope when you travel through Toronto that you'll do it again. All the Canadians, 4 of them, tomorrow on OTR. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Michael.